I'll work out with the mayor anyway. So she'll draw you up here. And you'll have the I got that one. 5 seconds. That's great. I'm just giving the chance. Yeah, it wasn't even close. That's why I asked.
Thank you.
Christy. Yeah, then the council's made it. Just stay there. If they don't have any questions, you're welcome to come back in. Yeah, we'll do them in order.
Riley,
Councillor Gluckin, can you hear me?
yep. Do you have Ms. Squire there?
We do. Ms. Squire has texted you.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you.
If you. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the public forum being held in the council chambers for this Monday, the 26th of June. Item 1, recording of the public forum. This public forum is being audio recorded for administrative purposes. By speaking at the public forum, you agree to being recorded. Please ensure that if and when you're speaking at this public forum, that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this public forum. Item 2, conflict of interest declarations received by the Chair, Acting CEO, Ms. Squire.
Thank you, Mayor King. We have received a conflict of interest from Councillor Callaghan with respect to item 13.3, which one of the speakers will speak to tonight at the public forum. Councillor Callaghan, it's a non-pecuniary, non-significant. The reason for the interest is that a relative has submitted an objection and Councillor Callaghan will remain in the chamber and participate in the vote.
Thank you, Ms. Squire. Which brings us to our speakers. So our first speaker in relation is 3.1 is Mal Radojcic. Is in relation to 13.2 DA 10.2022.39103.1 childcare centre, car parking, signage, shade structures, storage sheds, earthworks, retaining walls and tree removal at 536 Nagle Road, Lavington. Mr. Radojcic is speaking in support of council's preferred recommendations. Feel free to come to the microphone if there's any issues there. We'll have our tech team sort that for you. And we'll start the timer shortly, but thank you.
Okay, they've put me on the spot. I don't normally do this. My other business partner, who's my brother-in-law, he normally stands up, but he's away on holiday, so fortunately I'm it. So my name is Mal Radojcic. I sent you guys this letter that we're doing on 536 Nagle Road. We operate several childcare centres in New South Wales. We're a family-owned business. So it's me and my sister, my brother-in-law and my wife. We went to a similar council meeting in Orange about 12 months ago, and we've just finished constructing a new childcare centre there. Mind you, we just got nominated for commercial building with the Master Builders Association. So that went really well. Regarding the design, we've sort of done it similar to what we did in Orange, where we sort of turned our back on the neighbours. So we sort of put ourselves in the corner where we wouldn't make too much noise. We've pretty much, if you read the council documents, we've done everything possible to limit the noise and obviously the neighbours' concerns. Yeah, we're here to stay. We want to stay in Lamington. This is what we do. We'll be employing obviously up to 30 people. We use local suppliers. Yeah, we don't sort of, every regional centre has its own supplier. So it sort of makes accounting a bit of a task, having different supplies, but that's how we do things. And yeah, I think we could coexist with our neighbours, and I do urge, if it was to be approved, all our neighbours have my direct email and phone number. So if there's ever an issue, they call me, not go through the channels. We can sort out if there is an issue. Yeah, we've been, well, last 16 months, we've had numerous reports that we've supplied council with, traffic reports and acoustic reports. Pretty much there's no other reports to get. That's it. Yeah, I mean, in conclusion, there is a strong demand in the Lavington area. And we'll also be providing a lot of training for young kids that are coming out of school, and all our centres network closely with high schools and do prac work and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to vouch for the centre, and yeah, if you read the reports, it's all there. There's nothing more I could really add to it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Radojcic. Councillors, any questions for our first guest speaker? No? Thank you. Our next speaker, 3.2, is Laurel Butler in relation to 13.3 DA 10.2022.39628.1, alterations and additions to attached dual occupancy development at 64 Maryland Way, Albury. She's speaking not in support of council's preferred recommendation. Good evening, Laurel.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak. That's hopefully it's going to stay there. I'm the next door neighbour to the proposed development at 64 Maryland Way, and my house is on the south of that property. And it's my request that you reject the application based on the following grounds. You'll see some photos up on the board that I've taken of my house over the last couple of weeks. And what I'd like you to particularly pay attention to, and if you could just scroll through those, that would be great, is the sun and light that comes into my house in the winter. These were taken 2 weeks ago. I'd like you to reject the application based on the following grounds. The first one being overshadowing, the second one being bulk and scale, and the third one being the energy efficiency of my home. Energy efficiency isn't mentioned anywhere in the DCP. However, it is a requirement for every new home that is built that we must achieve certain energy ratings to be granted a DA. In 2014, I built my home in Maryland Way. Prior to construction, with the help of Davis Sanders Homes, I took great care to make sure that my home exceeded the energy rating requirements of the time, ensuring that it was bathed in natural light, warm in winter, cool in summer, therefore conserving energy, decreasing power bills, and decreasing my carbon footprint. At this point, I should point out that I actually work for Davis Sanders Homes as well. And I have done for the last 20 years. My 20 years experience with Davis Sanders has taught me lots of things about designing energy efficient homes, planning homes, permitting and construction of new homes. What we do and what we have to do as builders to gain approvals prior to building. One of the requirements that we must demonstrate is that every home we design and build has a minimum 6-star energy rating. This is about to be increased to a 7-star energy rating in the coming months. We have no choice as builders, and we must demonstrate that all regulatory authorities, including council, that we have these ratings in order to gain building approvals. My home has a 6-star energy rating, which in part is due to the number of north-facing windows that I have facing 64 Maryland Way. In September 2018, a DA was submitted to council for 2 two-storey dwellings to be built on the lot next door that are directly to my north. Due to overshadowing issues and the detrimental effect to my home, the plans required modifying. In particular, the dwelling had to move further north by 3 metres, and the extension over the single-storey garage, the single garage had to be removed because it was blocking sun from my home. Moving ahead to 2023, I'm again forced to try and defend my home from exactly the same thing that was knocked back by council in 2018. This extension sounds harmless. However, in reality, what it does, it places an unbroken wall of huge bulk and scale measuring 10 metres plus 10 metres in length that sits at a height of 5.7 metres, and that's to the fascia, and 7.7 metres to the pitch of the roof. That overshadows the entire north side of my home and also all of my private outdoor space. With reference to overshadowing, the DCP states that I'm required to have at least 3 hours sunlight between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. That sunlight is to be to windows of my habitable rooms, at least 50% of my private open space, to photovoltaics, which I have, and outdoor clothesline facilities. I'm required to receive 3 hours of sunlight per day. The shadow diagrams that I supplied, which are a little bit different to the ones that were supplied by the applicant, show that my home will receive a small degree of sunlight into the northwest corner of my dining room at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By 3 o'clock, this will extend to encompass more of my dining room, but only 1/3 of that north side of my house. You'll see from those diagrams that there's a small amount of sun at 9 a.m. in the morning, but that is to non-habitable rooms. That is actually to my outdoor alfresco. Point 2 states that I need 50% sunlight to 50% of my private open space. My private open space is the outdoor alfresco and garden to the north of my home. It's in shadow for almost the entire day, as seen on the shadow diagrams that have been supplied. Point 3 states that solar access to my solar panels. These are partially in shade for the entire day. Now, I know very little about solar panels, but I imagine that when the calculations are done on how many I require for my house to be efficient, then that's what I require. Not half of it, not a quarter of it, not 2/3 of it, but that amount of solar panels. My outdoor clothesline is also on that north-facing wall, which is the most efficient place for it to be, and I should not be expected to move it based on a DA application. The bulk and scale of the property of the extension is also something that needs to be addressed. There's an uninterrupted wall of 10.3 metres to a height of 5.7 metres to the fascia. That gives me a solid wall from every visible area of my living space and also private outdoor space. In terms of energy efficiency, which is not mentioned anywhere in the DCP, the effect of overshadowing and bulk and scale and impact on amenity to the energy requirements of my home are huge. To build my house to the guidelines set out by numerous government bodies, including council, now appear to be null and void once the house has been built. The attitude seems to be that once a house has been built, that the energy requirements do not apply or matter anymore. Why do we bother as builders to actually have these things, have to jump through these hoops for government bodies and council when post-build it doesn't matter?
Do you have a line or two just to sum up, Laura?
I
We're
do.
just running
My
out of
final
time.
line.
Thank you.
In conclusion, I would like, I've spent considerable time, money, effort, etc., in planning my home so that it's livable, energy efficient and tread lightly on the environment. I would like this proposal to be rejected.
Thank you, Laurel. Councillors, any questions? No, I'm sorry, no, that's, we have a public forum process where you can register to, well, that's open to everyone to be able to do that, and that opportunity was needing to be lodged prior to the meeting. I'm sorry, this is not the forum to discuss this. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm sorry. No more comments. Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, any questions in relation to that presentation? Thank you. Our next speaker, 3.3, Murray Pigdon, in relation to that item 13.3, the development application at 64 Maryland Way, speaking not in support of council's preferred recommendation. Welcome, Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors. Again, thank you for the time. Not a lot more to add to Laurel's brief there on the history of Laurel's home. Although I guess we as builders had a lot to do and input when we designed that home. We had many changes in it when we're trying to give it as much solar passive opportunity as we could. We switched bedrooms, we took all the living areas to that end. We made windows bigger to allow the sun to get through to give some heat to the floor, which is mass, which will cut down on energy bills and everything else. We do that all the time, as all the builders in town do, all the designers do. So technically, what's happened here, and have a look at the shadow diagrams, if you've had the opportunity to see it, you'll see that opportunity is gone. We might as well made a solid wall out of her northern aspect and allowed no sun at all to get into heat any of her floor masses. So outside of everything Laurel said, it seems very inappropriate for us. If we're designing that home today, we'd have to shift it quite a few metres to the south to allow for some passive sunlight to come into her home to reduce her energy bills and to provide some winter warmth. And we're asked the question so many times: how do we determine where the living and which way our home should face? And it should, as much north as we can get in winter, gives as much heating and cooling benefits as we can get. And if anyone's got an animal, you'll know that animal or that cat will find an open window in a home in the middle of winter and sit there, because that's the warmest spot, because it's absorbing the heat that's coming off normally in a slab construction off the thermal mass of a floor. So in support of what's going on here, I certainly wouldn't support the application either. And I would feel that all the work we put into making sure this home had solar passive nature is just thrown out the window. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions, councillors? Thank you. Our final speaker, 3.4, is Kim Terry in relation to item 13.4, development application 10.2021.39970.1, earthworks, site fill and tree removal, 87 Kookaburra Way, East Albury, speaking in support of council's preferred recommendations. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to put my points forward. Just quickly, my main concern for this development is the environmental impact. It's a huge development on a floodplain, which requires an immense amount of fill. There's the Sloane's froglet, which is, we know, habitates that area, as well as water birds and other native animals in that area, which will be impacted by the development. I also feel the development's not in keeping with the residential surrounds, so it's quite a sprawling development in a residential area, and also the risk of flooding. So it is a floodplain, and the water will most likely be directed towards the Finch Court end of the estate, whereas there's floodwater that comes down into that area. The stormwater from the development on Sunrise will also end up in that area. So yeah, the risk of flood is also a concern. So yeah, so I hope that you'll consider those when making a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Councillors, any questions? Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the council meeting being held in the council chambers for this Monday, the 26th of June. We'll start with the opening affirmation and acknowledgement of country. We gather to represent the people of Albury who have entrusted us with this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, wisdom and common sense. May our personal values give us honesty and courage to serve our community effectively and with respect for all. We would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people as the traditional custodians of the land that we meet upon today and pay our respects to the elders past, present and future, for they hold the memories, culture, tradition and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that contribute to our community. A reminder, this council meeting is being webcast and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to being recorded and webcast. Please ensure that if and when you are speaking at this council meeting, that you are respectful to other people and use appropriate language. Albury City accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. An audio recording will be made for administrative purposes. CM3, conflict of interest declarations received by the chair and disclosure of political donations. Acting CEO, Ms. Squire.
Thank you, Mayor King. Yes, we have 3 conflicts of interest this evening. The first one is from Councillor Callaghan regarding item 13.3. It's a non-pecuniary, non-significant. The reason is that relatives have objected to the development application. And the action that Councillor Callaghan will take will be to remain in the chamber and vote on the matter. A conflict of interest from Councillor Thurley regarding item 13.5, non-pecuniary but significant. The reason is that he is a member of the JRPP that is required to determine the development application. So he will leave the chamber and not participate in the vote. And finally, Councillor Gluckin regarding item 13.5, non-pecuniary and significant. Reason being also a member of the JRPP that is required to determine the matter, and the action will be that Councillor Glacken will leave the chamber online and not participate in the vote in regards to that item. In terms of disclosures of political donations and requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, the advice to the council meeting is that the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, section 10.4 requires a person submitting planning applications or submissions regarding a planning application to disclose any reportable political donation and or gifts to any local councillor or employee of council. Reportable political donations include those of or above $1,000. The disclosure statement forms are available on the council's website or from the customer service centre and must be lodged in accordance with the Act. The forms are also available at the back of the chamber during meetings. In dealing with development applications, councillors need to take into account specific planning matters contained within the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Accordingly, the provisions of section 4.151 of that Act are set out in the Council Officer's report detailing planning issues to be considered. The Local Government Act 1993, section 375A requires that a division be called whenever a motion for a planning decision is put at a meeting of the council. A planning decision means a decision made in the exercise of a function of council under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, including a decision relating to a development application, an environmental planning instrument, a development control plan, or a development contribution plan under that Act, but not including the making of an order under Division 9.3 of Part 9 of that Act. Thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you, Ms Squire. CM4 apologies. CM 4.1 apologies. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receive, note and accept the apology of Councillor Darren Cameron and grant leave of absence for the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Betteridge.
Happy to second, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillors, those for? Those against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 4.2, attendance by councillors at a meeting by audio visual link. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that council receive, note and accept the attendance of councillors Glacken and Callaghan via audio visual link for the meeting.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Before we put the motion, I'll just double check Councillor Callaghan, just ensuring you can hear us at this stage.
Thank you, Mayor King. I can.
Councillor Callaghan, we do require your camera to be on for the course of this meeting. There you are. Thank you very much.
Apologies. Thank you.
No, that's a pleasure. Thanks, councillors. We can now put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM5 mayoral minute. There is no mayoral minute. CM6 action plans. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that the following action plans be received and noted. 1, actions complete for noting only. 2, actions awaiting response from external parties. 3, actions in progress. And 4, long-term issues more than 3 months.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second that motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just a brief comment. One of the action items relates to the Saville Avenue Reserve and problems that have been occurring in that area. And I went to the on-site meeting on Saturday. The police and our staff were there. And I think around about 10 to 15 residents turned up and gave their input as to what's been happening and what ideas they had to solve the problems. A lot of it is damage to fences, noise, graffiti and so on. So our staff took a lot of notes and the police were also aware of the complaints that were being made. So thank you.
You, Councillor Thurley, any other speakers for or against? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM7, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Councillor Betteridge.
You, through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday, the 22nd of May, 2023 at 6 p.m. be confirmed.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Anyone wish to speak to the motion or happy to put the motion? Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM8, reports from community forums. There are none. CM9, notices of motion, notices of rescission. There are none. CM10, presentations and deputations. There are none. CM11, reports or minutes of committees and working parties. CM 11.1, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 17th of May 2023. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes and recommendations of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on Wednesday, the 17th of May 2023 at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion, councillors? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to second that motion.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to highlight two issues. One of the biggest issues that keeps coming up now is cybersecurity. And clearly every day you read in the paper the threats that councils, companies, banks face, and we are no different to any of them. The other issue, of course, is staff retention. Given the high demand in planning areas and in cybersecurity, retention of staff is difficult for councils. But we're doing pretty well at this stage, and the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee was happy with our responses to their questions.
Thanks, Councillor Thurley, for the summary. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 11.2, minutes of the Companion Animals Advisory Committee meeting held on the 24th of May 2023. Councillor Edwards.
I move that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes recommendations of the Companion Animals Advisory Committee meeting held on Wednesday, 24th of May 2023 at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. I'd like to second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly wanted to note that as a part of the Keep Track of Your Best Mate program, Albury City commenced a new initiative with Pet Focus called Adopt Don't Shop, where any adoptions from the Albury Animal Care Centre received subsidised registration, microchipping, desexing and initial vaccination. And the initiative was really successful with many animals being adopted. And the RSPCA, in partnership with Hume Animal Hospital, have also been doing amazing work in this space with their desexing program, aiming to desex 100 animals this month. And just note that desexing is one of the most effective tools that we have to stop unwanted animals ending up at the pound. This reduces the threat to native wildlife in our community with less feral cats and dogs wandering around. I look forward to this program running again soon and encourage anyone looking for a new pet to consider adoption from the Animal Care Centre or one of our many rescue organisations.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. A great little update there. Thank you. No speakers for or against. We'll put the motion then. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 11.3, minutes of the Albury Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on the 24th of May 2023. Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Through you, to move the recommendation as a motion that council receives, notes and accepts the minutes recommendations of the Albury Airport Advisory Committee meeting held on Monday, 24 May 2023 at 12:45 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gluckin. Councillor Bettridge.
Happy to second, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Gluckin, did you wish to speak to the motion? Any other speakers for or against? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for, those against, that motion is carried. Thanks, councillors. CM12, documents for sealing. Councillor Bettridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that council authorises its seal to be affixed to the documents outlined below. In the presence of two signatories, authorised to affix the seal pursuant to Regulation 400 of the Local Government (General Regulation 2021), and the council seal and management of legal documents and advice procedure. Albury City lease renewal to Suvox Proprietary Limited, trading as Basque Beauty Spa at 323 Wodonga Place, Albury, term of 5 years commencing 1st of July 2023, FIL 17/00765.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Bettridge, do you wish to speak to the motion at all?
No, thank you, Mayor King.
Thank you. No other speakers for or against? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13, Officers' Reports for Consideration. CM 13.1, the draft Albury City 4-year delivery program, draft 2023-24 operational plan, and the draft long-term financial plan, public exhibition submissions. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A acknowledges the submissions received during the public exhibition period. B adopts the exhibited draft 4-year delivery plan program 2023 to 2027, draft 2023-24 operational plan, and draft long-term financial plan. C votes the expenditure set out in the operational plan for the 2023-24 year. D makes each rate and charge for the 2023-24 year in accordance with the exhibited 2023-24 statement of review policy. And E makes each fee and charge for the 2023 year in accordance with the exhibited 2023-24 schedule of fees and charges. Section 494 of the Local Government Act 1993 requires the council to make and levy ordinary rates on all rateable land in its area for the 2023-24 financial year. Section 497B of the Local Government Act 1993 provides the method of structure for council rates. The council ordinary rate has a base amount to which an ad valorem amount is added. The base amount is in accordance with Section 499 and 500 of the Local Government Act 1993. The ad valorem amount and base, I move the attached supporting information be accepted.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Bettridge.
Very happy to second that motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to open debate?
Thank you, Mayor King. This budget has come about after a lot of work in council by staff and councillors at workshops. And in a particularly difficult financial time for most people, setting this budget and the operational plan is difficult. However, one thing we must do is we have to look beyond just 12 months. We have to look at the long-term financial sustainability of councils. And you can see there are examples around New South Wales of councils that have been caught up with not having done that in the past and now are requiring 60% rate increases over 3 years. We haven't done that, and we've responsibly budgeted for many years now. And this, I think, is also a responsible budget. There were quite a few submissions, I think 90 in total, varied right across the range of activities that council gets involved with. I was a little surprised to a lot of submissions, 18 from the one IP address with no details of who was involved, and some even inferred that council staff might have conflicts of interest because of their interest in mountain bike riding. I'm disappointed in that, but overall I think this is a good budget, and once again we've presented a very good plan to the ratepayers of Albury.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Speaker 4, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm just lowering my hand. I'd like the feedback received from the community is extremely beneficial in informing the budget, not only for the 2023-24, but as Councillor Thurley said, for the next 4 years and beyond. There were common themes regarding the need for a regional aquatic centre to provide year-round access to water, and highlighting this is that it's long overdue and need that the community is really seeking. I'm pleased to say that the Stage 2 development of the Lauren Jackson Sports Centre site is underway with a feasibility study that will help shape the future of aquatics in Albury. There were some excellent suggestions in relation to environmental harm minimisation to preserve and enhance the natural environment, noting that the environment protection equates to $6.7 million in this budget. There is also improvements to create a solar carport canopy, which will reduce and supply renewable energy to Albury City Council. Further commitment is improving connectivity and safety with the installation improvements of footpaths and ongoing, which many people in our community were requesting. Improved facilities at most sporting clubs such as Gilbert Park, Aloysius Park, Melrose are crying out for club rooms, storage, female change rooms and disability access. Most of these club rooms were built some time ago, and Albury City are committed to improving these facilities to encourage an inclusive and active community. There is money allocated to improve play spaces with shade construction and tree planting in the 2023-24 budget. The community are also seeking improvements to stormwater catchment and management and infrastructure, which are being worked through after some catastrophic weather events, which have proven upgrades are required and which they will see in the budget. The Thurgoona-Willinga community are asking for investment at large for sewers, safer roads, educational institutions, community precincts. These will be informed by the Thurgoona-Willinga Precinct Master Plan, with $4.6 million allocated in the next financial year and a total of $48 million planned investment over the next 4 years. I'm also very delighted to see that Albury City Council youth budget doubled, improving the capacity to make a difference. Albury City Council has also committed $136,000 on youth activities that will be delivered, which is a 27% increase from the previous budget. It is hard to meet the needs of everyone. However, I hope people feel represented in the 2023-24 budget with the 90 submissions that we have received, and that there is an ongoing commitment to a better community for Albury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Any other speakers for or against? Question, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to the relevant member of staff. One of the submissions came in from, excuse me, within the budget regarding the Thurgoona-Willinga water and sewer upgrades, and that was regarding a K-12 school. And just wondering about, it does say in there that they're looking to get that happening, and we've stated that there'll be an 11 to 15 year wait on that. I think we need schools hopefully a bit earlier than that, if possible. Is there the opportunity for that to progress a little bit more, please?
Mr. Warlow.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King. As mentioned in Councillor Bowen's question then, Albury City released our water and sewer strategies in 2017, and the water in the area of the Williams Road development was slated for 16 to 20 years at that time, which puts it at roughly 10 to 15 now. The sewer was 10 to 15 years, so obviously with the time already gone, we're looking at 5 to 10 years. The sewer trunk infrastructure and the water trunk infrastructure by its very nature needs to be interconnected. So leapfrogging a section of water or sewer trunk main into a new development can be problematic. However, for such a significant development as this, would be very willing to work with the stakeholders to see if we could expedite that works, from a technical and from an engineering point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, did you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor King.
In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. I believe I'm up to CM 13.2, development application 10.2022.39103.1, childcare centre, car parking, signage, shade structures, storage sheds, earthworks, retaining walls and tree removal at 536 Nagle Road, Lavington. Councillor Bettridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that Council A receive the contents of this report, and B, grants consent to development application 10.2022.391.103.1 for a childcare centre, car parking, signage, storage sheds, shade structures, earthworks, retaining walls, boundary fencing and tree removal situated at 536 Nagle Road, Lavington, described as Lot 3 on DP 125556, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 6 to this report.
Thank you, Councillor Bettridge. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Bettridge, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, just very briefly. Thank you, Mayor King. I speak in favour of the motion before us this evening. After 3 public notification periods, 12 submissions have been received objecting to the development. The report provided has given a thorough and detailed response to those objections received. I have confidence that this is an appropriate development for the site and will have no significant impact with the imposition of appropriate conditions that are stipulated in the draft determination. To those that took the time and effort to make submissions, I thank you, as those submissions may not have changed the decision. They most definitely have helped to make this development a far better outcome for all those that live nearby and use this facility into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bettridge. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion in that case, Councillor Bettridge. I call a division as it is a development application. Those for: Councillors Glacken, Callaghan, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Bettridge and Baker. And there are none against. So that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Item CM 13.3, Development Application 10.2022.39628.1, alterations and additions to attached dual occupancy development at 64 Maryland Way. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I wish to move the second motion that appeared on the board.
We'll just pause while we get Councillor Thurley's motion.
Thank you. I move that Council A receives the contents of the report and B refuses to grant consent to development application 10.2022.39628.1 for alterations and additions to attached dual occupancy development at 64 Maryland Way, Albury, for the following reasons. 1, the development does not comply with the provisions of Part 10, Development in the Residential Zones, Division E, Medium Density Housing, Clause 2D2. Massing and articulation are to reduce apparent scale and bulk and provide visually interesting building. And Clause 2E2, the proposed development must retain at least 3 hours of sunlight between 9 AM and 3 PM on the winter solstice for existing neighbouring residential accommodations, outdoor clothes drying facilities. Therefore, is contrary to the provisions of Section 415(1)(a)(3) of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979. 2, the development will have an adverse impact upon the amenity of the adjoining property, in particular overshadowing, and will have an adverse impact upon the built form of the area, as the additions will increase the bulk of the existing development on site, which is inconsistent with the character of the streetscape. Therefore, it is contrary to the provisions of Section 415(1)(b) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. 3, the development will have an adverse impact upon the amenity of the adjoining property, in particular overshadowing, and will have an adverse impact upon the built form of the area, as the additions will increase the bulk of the existing development on site, which is inconsistent with the character of the streetscape. Therefore, the development is contrary to the provisions of Section 415(1)(d) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979.
You, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mayor King. We did have the first part of this development in 2018 came to council, and as a result of some problems with that, the building was moved 2.5 metres north. It was overshadowing was the impact. And now we have basically going back in some way to that original concept. We had some shadow plans submitted to council on the 12th of September 2022, and they demonstrated a significant impact on the principal and private open space of 58 Maryland Way. Further information was requested from the applicant, and on the 14th of March 2023, the applicant submitted amended shadow plans identifying error made when calculating initial overshadowing impact. Amended plans apparently show that all is okay with a solar excess, but that doesn't seem to be the case in my opinion. And for the reasons given, above, I had to move that we reduce consent for this development.
Thank you, councillor Thurley. Question, councillor Glacken.
Thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. The development or the development application appears to have, to my eye, two enhancements. One is over the northern end, which is an increase to the roof space for the northern occupant. And then there's a development that increases the roof line of the second development as well. Can the staff confirm if it was only the increased roof space and height to the northern development, then would that have the same shadowing effect and reduce to less than 3 hours a day the sunshine at the winter solstice to the person who lives to the south of the development application?
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question, and for you, Mayor King. If the application before us was to only do the extension on the northern portion, which is what Councillor Glacken appears to be asking, and not the southern portion, then yes, that would have an impact upon the overshadowing to the south, as the increased height would be to the north, and because it would be contained within the, I guess to say, so the better way to describe it, the gap between the two existing roof structures. Without having a shadow diagram in front of me for that exact development, it would be unlikely to make any changes to the existing situation. But obviously, that is not the question that's before council at this stage, but in response to Councillor Glacken's question.
Thank you,
Mr. Christie. Was there a follow-up, Councillor Glacken? No? Yep.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. That clarified my question, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Callaghan, was it a question or speaking for or against?
I will
Speaking
speak for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor King. I would like to thank Ms Butler and Mr Pigden for their presentations at the Community Forum this evening. I'm opposed to the proposed development at 64 Maryland Way on the basis that the proposed erected extension would be a solid wall at 7.68 metres high and 10 metres in length. A wall of such bulk and scale would have a detrimental effect and unreasonable overshadowing on the property at 58 Maryland Way. Considerable effort has gone into making 58 Maryland Way an energy efficient, and the proposed extension would have an impact on the energy requirements of the home. In 2018, when 64 Maryland Way submitted its DA, modifications were made to reduce the bulk and scale of the building and to reduce the overshadowing. These decisions should stand the test of time, and I will not be voting to approve this development. And I am in support of the motion to refuse the development application of 64 Maryland Way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to also speak for the motion of refusal. I've gone back to the original documentation of the original meeting early on, saying the application proposed a detailed dual occupancy double-storey development with a setback of 900 metres. Having reviewed the application and submissions, council raised the overshadowing impacts to the applicant, and then to resolve the overshadowing impacts, the applicant amended the proposal to attach the two dwellings together and create an attached dual occupancy, consequently increasing the dwelling setback to the southern boundary by another 2 metres to 3 metres. So they amended the overshadowing diagrams, and the prospective drawings submitted show that the extent of overshadowing on the neighbouring north-facing windows will open up the space, and it's significantly reduced. So to do that in the original one, and then to look at doing an extra build over the top of the garage seems rather suffice to that there. So I'll be supporting the motion for refusal.
Thank you, councillor Bowen. If there are no other speakers for or against, councillor Thurley, do you wish to wrap up?
Thank you, Mayor King.
Councillors, again, I'll call a division, given this is a development application. Those for the motion. Councillors Glacken, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Betteridge and Baker, and that is unanimously passed by council. Thank you, councillors. That motion is carried. CM 13.4 Development Application 10.2021.3 9970.1 Earthworks Site Fill and Tree Removal 87 Kookaburra Way, East Albury. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that Council A receives and notes the contents of this report, and B refuses development application 10.2023.3 9970.1 for a colorbond shed, swimming pool, shade structure and associated outbuildings, including a sauna, tennis court, ground-mounted solar panels, 2 new crossovers on the northern boundary, a driveway, off-street parking areas, landscaping and earthworks (brackets fill) on lot 102 in DP 1264791, currently addressed as 87 Kookaburra Way, East Albury, for the following reasons. 1. The application does not achieve the aim of Albury Local Environment Plan 2010 to give effect to the desired outcomes, principles and actions contained in the Council's adopted strategies and policy documents, nor to maintain or improve biodiversity across Albury, and to avoid significant impacts on matters of environmental significance or the objectives of the C3 Environmental Management Zone, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 (brackets 1, brackets A, brackets I) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. 2. The application does not comply with the objectives for the C3 Environmental Management Zone of Albury Local Environment Plan 2010, which are to protect, manage and restore areas with special ecological, scientific, cultural and aesthetic values, and to ensure the long-term viability of populations of threatened species and ecological communities, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 (brackets 1, brackets A, brackets I) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. 3. The variation from the DCP control not permitting development within a floodway has not been adequately satisfied, which is contrary to the provisions of section 4.1 (brackets 1, brackets A, brackets 3) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979. 4. The application does not comply with the general objectives for development in the C3 Environmental Management Zone of Albury Development Control Plan 2010, which are designed to ensure that development in these zones is carried out in a way that is sensitive to the land and environment characteristics, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 (brackets 1, brackets A, brackets I) and section 4.15 (brackets 1, brackets A, brackets 3) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979. 5. The application does not adequately demonstrate that the development will have no negative impacts, including environmental impacts on both the natural and built environments, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.1 (brackets 1, brackets B) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. 6. The application does not adequately demonstrate the need for the scope of fill and did not adequately seek to avoid site constraints or prove the site to be suitable for the proposed development, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.1 (brackets 1, brackets C) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. And 7. The application does not adequately demonstrate that the development will have no negative impacts, including environmental impacts on both the natural and built environments, and is therefore contrary to the provisions of section 4.15 (brackets 1, brackets D) of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Betteridge. Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
let you catch your breath, councillor Betteridge.
I
You are-
only wish to speak briefly, Madam Mayor. And I speak in support of the motion before us to refuse this development application. The 7 reasons set out in the motion give a clear directive as to why this development application should be refused. And with confidence, I am happy to support the motion before us. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Betteridge. Any other speakers for or against? Question, councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to the relevant member of staff, I understand in a nutshell that this is environmental management land as opposed to environmental livable land, I believe. Is that the case? And so can I just have a definition of the two, if that's all right? If I've got that second one correct.
Mr. Christie.
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. So yes, there are a variety of, they're now called conservation zones due to some recent state government changes across the city. The 3 main ones are around environmental conservation, which is at our higher level, which is generally on public land containing things like Nalcan Hill, parklands, etc. Then there is our C3 zone, which is environmental management, which is again areas that have environmental attributes, but in which living and other things are allowed. But in essence, they're to be there, on a better word, not quite subservient, but better way to describe subservient to the environmental attributes of the site. And in areas like E4, which is environmental livable zone in essence, and areas such as Doctors Point, which recommends the unique attributes of the site, but also recognises that there is a residential use on the site, and there's a far more of a balance between those two uses, if that provides a description of the difference between the 3 conservation zones.
Thank you. Follow up.
Thank you. And just for a quick follow-up through you, Mayor King, if I may. So therefore, C3 environmental management is designed not to impact too much, including landfill. Is that the way I understand it?
Mr.
Yes,
Christie.
thank you for the question. And for you, Mayor King, yes, the predominant purpose of the C3 zone is to allow residential and other uses, but to have the environmental management as of higher order than other uses on the site.
Thank you.
Speaker 4, councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd also like to support the recommendation. I think it is, there was an opportunity and there still could be for some really good environmental outcomes to occur on this large 11 point something hectare block. And I think so far the opportunity has been missed, and hopefully this refusal might create a different way of looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Baker. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion, councillor Betteridge, or did you wish to sum up?
Motion to be put, Mayor King. Thank you.
Okay, again, this is in division. Those for the motion currently before us, councillor Glacken, Callaghan, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Betteridge and Baker. That is unanimous, so that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We are about to move into item 13.5. Councillor Thurley and councillor Glacken have declared a conflict. We'll just pause as councillor Thurley leaves the chamber and councillor Glacken is removed on the audio visual link to return a little later on. We're just closing the door with some members from the gallery also departing at this time. So item CM 13.5, development application 10.2022.39769.1, alterations and additions to Albury Wodonga Private Hospital and tree removal, 1125 Pemberton Street, West Albury. Note will be a separate SRPP determination based on health services value of $12 million. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, or just basically add a line in that motion, if I may.
Right, we'll get your proposed motion put up?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to propose that council receives and notes the report, that A, and B, determines that council makes a separate submission to the Southern Regional Planning Panel in relation to development application DA 10.2022.39769.1, which seeks approval for alterations and additions to the Albury Private Hospital at 1125 Pemberton Street, West Albury, in brackets lot 2 DP 1049348, end of brackets. The addition is the submission is to provide support for the application, noting the improved service to the community and requesting that the panel support the recommendation regarding the imposition of condition A12 regarding the preparation and approval of a car parking strategy to assist in managing car parking demands for that site.
Thank you, councillor Bowen. Councillor Bettridge.
Through you, Mayor King, very happy to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, did you wish to open debate?
Thank you. I just wish to make sure that we are including parking. I know that parking, there wasn't enough parking in the application, and I know it's not coming to us for a vote in that respect, but I'd like to add a submission, even though we've already included that into an earlier submission, to have it on record that we'd like to make sure that there is enough parking and it's considered going forward for any of our medical precincts.
Thank you, councillor Bowen. Any other speakers for or against? In division, again, councillors will put the motion. Those for: Councillor Callaghan, Councillor Edwards, Councillor Bowen, King, Bettridge and Baker. There are none against, so that motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll just pause while we return Councillor Thurley and Glacken to the meeting. It's noting that Councillor Thurley has returned to the chamber and Councillor Glacken is back on audio visual. Which brings us to our next item, CM 13.6 Development Application 10.2022.39702.1 64 Lot Torrens Title Subdivision, 2 reserves and tree removal, 827 Centaur Road, Hamilton Valley. Have any councillors that wish to move a motion? Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation as a motion that council receives the contents of this report and grants consent to development application 10.2022.39702.1 for the 64 lot Torrens freehold title residential subdivision of lots 355 and 356 in DP 753326 and addressed as 827 and 841 Centaur Road, Hamilton Valley, subject to the conditions contained in the draft determination included at attachment 6 to this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Do we have a councillor wish to second that? Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Glacken, do you wish to speak to the motion first of all?
Yes, and then happy for councillors to ask relevant questions. The development, it's indicated by the staff in the report that the developer has gone to some considerable lengths to ensure that this development is appropriate for the location and has attempted to work well with the conditions that are already there. For example, the interaction with the existing development to the east, and also provides for opportunity for the development work that will at some stage in the future likely be to the west. And so it's good to see that a developer is working well with the situation that they are presented with, ultimately to provide the best opportunities for the people who will ultimately be wanting to live there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to move an amendment to the motion.
Can we hear your amendment? And
I believe it should be.
oh, we're waiting to get it up. Sorry.
So the amendment is to Part B, which is to grant deferred commencement of consent to development application 10.2022.39702.1 for a 64-lot Torrens freehold title residential subdivision of lots 355 and 356 in DP 753326 and addressed as 827 and 841 Centaur Road, Hamilton Valley, and the conditions contained in the draft determination, including attachment 6 to this report, with the addition of the following deferred commencement addition. 1, development application, deferred commencement pursuant to section 4.163 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. This is a deferred commencement consent. This development consent does not operate until such time as amended plans are submitted to council reflecting the following: retention of the 3 existing hollow-bearing trees in the southwest corner of the subject land into an amended subdivision plan.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Just after a seconder for the amended motion, Councillor Bettridge.
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Edwards, did you wish to speak to the motion, to the amended motion?
Yes, please. The development proposes the removal of 8 of the 10 trees on the subject land. 4 of those trees to be removed are hollow-bearing trees. This amendment seeks to approve the development with the condition to retain 3 of those 4 hollow-bearing trees. These 3 trees are located on lot boundaries or towards the back of the lots, meaning that there is still plenty of space to build. The staff report states that as the land was biodiversity certified when the application was lodged, the development is taken to be development that is not likely to significantly affect any threatened species, population, or ecological communities or their habitats. However, according to page 4 of the fauna assessment for the proposed development, these hollow-bearing trees potentially provide habitat for squirrel gliders, native birds, and mammals. But biodiversity aside, these trees will provide valuable visual amenity and shade and help to reduce urban heat island effects and the impacts of climate change. The tree canopies will also contribute to improved air and water quality and community wellbeing. Not only can these lots still be developed if these trees are retained, the retention of these trees will be a better outcome for future residents. I understand that wholesale clearing of vegetation makes development more profitable. However, we as a council need to set the standard for what kind of suburbs our residents deserve to live in. Shady, green and cool suburbs are better suburbs, and these are the kinds of places our community deserve to live in. We as a council are working hard on a draft urban forest strategy to improve the tree canopy cover in our city because we all recognise the huge benefits of trees. So it's time that development in our city also recognise the amenity value of trees.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Question, Councillor Bettridge.
Thank you to the relevant member of staff, Mayor King. If I could, page 108, right down the bottom, I'll just read it out. In this instance, the space provided is small yet accessible and in close proximity to established trees. It is considered adequate for the immediate future residents of the estate. A condition of consent can be imposed requiring embellishment of the park area on lot 1001, should council approve the development. My question is, has this been included in the draft notice of determination development consent, or does the term can imply that it could be put in, but it hasn't as yet? I had a read of it and I couldn't see it, but I may well have missed it.
Mr. Christie, we'll just make sure you've got the right page.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Mayor. If you just can bear me a moment just while I bring it up on my agenda.
Thank you.
Mr Christie.
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. There are a couple of conditions, B14, and then there is another condition, B24. Reading through them again, it's not explicit in terms of retention of additional existing trees, but they would talk about retention of trees and landscaping embellishment within those zones. So if it was to be made more explicit, then we can add a sentence in there in regards to the retention of existing trees. It is in there between the lines, but it does not explicitly state as such for the reserve. And this is in the northwestern area. This is not the area that is the subject to the question for Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, we're just allowed the grace because it may influence where Councillor Bettridge is thinking maybe at in relation to that question.
Okay.
Any follow-ups?
Again, so just point of clarification. So if the amended motion we have before us is passed, then is it too late to beef up, as you say, about the embellishment, or do we need to put that in now?
Mr Christie?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, but I'd prefer not to.
Yeah, thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. As I stated, our interpretation was that was a requirement for them, but if the council's wish to make it explicit, then the recommendation would be that you could add a condition, a sentence into it, which could be added to this motion, requiring the retention of trees in the Northern Reserve.
Just to clarify, yeah, I think Councillor Bettridge has a slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more
perspective.
requiring about the embellishment of the park area. That's what I'm concerned about, because early on it says that the open space is small, and then it could be that the embellishment of 1011 could offset some of that shortfall.
Thank you for the question and for you making. My apologies for misinterpretation. Condition B24, in my opinion, then does adequately cover it, which requires them to, prior to issue of a subdivision work certificate, a detailed open space and park embellishment plan for lot 1001 should be prepared and submitted to council for approval. The plan shall detail landscape elements in the area and be embellished with seating, children's play equipment and the like.
Okay.
So thank you for the further clarification. I believe that does answer your questions. For my
Yes, it does. Sorry, I wasn't clear enough, but yeah, no, I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bettridge. Another question, and then I know Councillor Baker wants to speak as well, and also Councillor Callaghan, but first Councillor Glacken for a question.
Thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff. If I am correct with the amended motion, so from Councillor Edwards, the alternative motion, the 3 hollow bearing trees that she is hoping would be retained, can the relevant member of staff please confirm that the blocks on which the intended blocks on which those trees are intended to be retained would be able to be built on, that they would indeed be able to design a home that would fit onto each of those blocks, noting that if I am correct in the location of where she's hoping to retain the 3 of the 4 hollow bearing trees, those blocks are narrow at the front and wider at the back, but I'm not sure if that will still enable a house to be built. Difficult question.
Mr Christie.
Thank you for the question and for you, Mayor King. In regards to it, that's the reason why this is a deferred commencement condition, and it does ask for an amended plan. So the recommendation is not for, the motion, sorry, amended motion is not for the retention of those trees in the current subdivision pattern as is. It is likely there may need to be some adjustment to the pattern of the subdivision or potentially the boundaries to ensure that there is a suitable building envelope. Hence why it's deferred commencement condition asking for amended plans to come back to council. I don't believe it will require wholesale redesign of the subdivision to be able to accommodate, but the designer and the developer may look at this and decide to make some adjustments to accommodate the retention of those trees, shift the boundaries, and this condition, this deferred commencement would allow them the opportunity to make some adjustments.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Christie. Speaker for Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'm also speaking for the amendment. I think we have to prioritise hollow bearing trees to a greater level than we may have in the past, and I'm more than happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Callaghan, is that a question or you want to speak for the amended motion?
I'd like to speak for the amended motion, Mayor King. I don't think it's unreasonable to seek to keep 3 trees that will enhance the amenity and livability of the development. Keeping these trees will also retain the habitat of its existing dwellers, and maintaining ecosystem adds to the property value. This highlights the delicate nature of urban sprawl and the importance of balancing and maintaining the environment and its jewels. And I'm happy to support the amended motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen, Speaker for the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to also speak for the amended motion. I drove up there today at just before 5 o'clock and saw a dozen or more kangaroos on that area as well too, and drove to along Pearsall Street, the high part. It's quite actually a hilly area, and noted those trees to the rear of the, or to, should I say, to the southwest of the development. So yes, I'm happy to make sure we retain those trees and do defer the commencement consent, and hopefully it comes back with a little bit better shape around those.
Thank you, councillors. No further speakers to sum up debate on the amendment? No? Okay, we will vote on this amendment. If it carries, it becomes the motion and can be debated further. So, councillors, I put the amendment. It is those for. Councillor Callaghan, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Betteridge and Baker, and Councillor Glacken as well. So that amendment now becomes the motion, so we can continue debate. So this now becomes the motion. So at this stage, any other speakers for or against, or we feel it's been covered enough in earlier debate? Happy to put the motion or close debate, Councillor Edwards? Oh, sorry, Councillor Glacken. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the original motion?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. The debate covered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we'll go through that voting process. Those for Councillor Callaghan, Glacken, Thurley, Edwards, Bowen, King, Betteridge and Baker. That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. That's unanimous. I think we're up to item CM 13.7, Ian Barker Sports Field Stabilisation and Reconstruction Works, contract number 22-01728. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A accepts the alternate tender from Colin Joss and Company Proprietary Limited, trading as Joss Construction, for contract number 22/01728, Ian Barker Field Stabilisation and Reconstruction Works, for a lump sum price of $7,004,128.80, including GST, and B, approve the allocation of $3 million, including GST, in funding at future 2023-24 quarterly budget reviews to complete this project.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Betteridge.
Happy to second that motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Thurley, do you wish to speak to the motion at all?
Just to note that when you are working on things like what was once a landfill, there are often plenty of surprises, and the subsidence and so on that's occurred here is really the reason why we're back here with this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Question, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. I have 2 questions. First question to the most relevant staff member. What contractual assurances do we have that it will stay flat and not return to its undulating surface?
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King. There is no specific guarantee under the contract. However, there is a defect liability period under the contract, which lasts for a 12-month period, in which time, should any defects from the works arise, the contractor is required to rectify that defect. I also can say that the work needs to be undertaken to the required specification under the contract, and this is developed based on a significant geotechnical assessment that's been undertaken on the site and been developed by specialists in the field to ensure that the work's done to a certain level and that we can be assured that it will retain flat. Should there be any depressions occur over time, that can be managed through top dressing and just general maintenance of the field.
Thank you. Follow-up, Councillor Callaghan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor King. Can the defect liability period be extended beyond 12 months in the contractual agreement, Mr. Lawson?
Yeah, thank you
Mr.
for the
Lawson.
question, and through you, Mayor King. Unfortunately, no, not at this time. Defect liability period needs to be set prior to the advertising of the contract.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Callaghan?
Sorry, one further question. I added an extra one to the contractual agreement. So thank you, and through to the most relevant staff member. How can we assure the community that this is a sensible financial commitment, and what benefit will it return both financially and socially to our community?
Mr. Costello for this one.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King. There's certainly a clear need for the works, and it has been identified through a range of strategic documents that council's been involved with. Most recently, we've had the Sports and Recreation Strategy, the 2 Cities, 1 Community document that identified that we've currently got a slight deficit of soccer fields. So we've currently got a deficit of about 4 soccer fields, which is expected to grow to potentially 15 fields as a deficit by 2036. And so it identified a real need to increase the number of fields across the cities to I guess to cater for that growth. There's been an excellent growth in sport and certainly female participation. So from that perspective, it's been really important, and also from a cricket perspective. So noting that the development in question is a 4-hectare multi-use playing surface. It is been designed to cater for the needs of AFL football, football in terms of soccer, cricket, and also rugby. And so there's a range of different uses that we put into that area. The area in question also will be lit, and so that's a really important element to ensure that the teams can have access to be able to play and train under lights, which is really important for our community. And as far as the social and wellbeing aspects, it's certainly wellbeing through those sorts of strategies, the importance to health and wellbeing, mental health and wellbeing for people to participate in sport. So given the factors outlined previously around the multi-use nature and the large number of user groups that would be using the facility, it could be well deemed that there's really good value both financially and from a health and wellbeing perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Speaker 4, Councillor Gluckin.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be able to speak for this motion this evening. Yes, it is a significant amount of money, but the facilities are quite significant also. It's part of a large precinct area that we have for sport and recreation, including the athletics area, the hockey area, other sporting facility at the other end of that large block of facilities, and also within close proximity of the Lauren Jackson Stadium as well. So this is a significant area in a significant precinct, sporting precinct. And as Councillor Thurley alluded to earlier, it is part of what was originally a waste facility for Albury. And it's not unusual for a waste facility to require secondary or subsequent remedial work after it's been utilised for a period of time. And this actually fits within that mould. We have other facilities in Albury that were previously waste facilities as well, including the netball facility. And yes, that also required subsequent work, which was undertaken from memory, about 10 years ago now. So I really do encourage councillors to support this motion this evening, to ensure that the number of fields that will become available, a significant number of fields that will become available with this work that's being undertaken, including, as was highlighted just now by the member of staff, the lighting facilities as well. So yes, I do support this recommendation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. Speaker 4, Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to speak for this motion as well too. I think it really adds value to a sporting precinct, and once again going forward with the Lauren Jackson Sports Stadium as well too, and also the design works that we're looking for that extension as well, and hopefully some even newer facilities in that area. I believe this is a sporting mecca, and it'll stead us very well going forward. Plus, it allows some rotation of fields as well too, from a wearing out point of view as well. So it allows you to move around fields and utilise those and rest up those playing spaces when required. So I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. No other speakers for or against. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to, happy to put the motion? Councillors, those for? Those against, that motion is carried. CM 13.8 Albury Regional Skate Park Amenities Contract 22-022220. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move the recommendation as a motion that council accepts the tender from Binding Building Proprietary Limited for the lump sum contract number 22/0222 for the construction of public toilets at the Albury Regional Skate Park for the contract value of $339,131.94, including GST.
Thank you. Councillor Bettridge.
You to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Baker, did you wish to speak to the motion at all?
No, thank you, Mayor King.
Question, Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King, and to the most relevant staff member. From the renders provided, will the toilet box be in view of the CCTV cameras? And I say this to avoid and deter antisocial behaviours and any damage that may be caused to the toilet block in the future.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King. No, at this point in time, no, they won't be in view of CCTV camera, is my understanding.
Thank you. A follow-up at all, Councillor Callaghan?
Is that the final destination for the toilet block? Is in the render that was provided, that's where it's anticipated to go, or is there other alternative options? I suppose I say this because there seems to be a bit of a blind spot at the back of that toilet block where I fear could be an antisocial space.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mayor King. That location, that's certainly the location that we've identified in the tender documentation. It's been located to be close proximity to the car park and also to the Bungambuwatha Trail. That will provide sort of passive surveillance from the utilisation there. So yes, that is the location of the toilet block within the contract.
Thank you. Another question, Councillor Glacken.
Thank you. I have two questions. A follow-up question to Councillor Callaghan's question. Is it possible for staff to look at, and I don't expect an answer this evening, can staff look at provision of subsequent CCTV facilities within the park or precinct area that would ensure that possible blind spots around that facility would not ensue? That's my first question. And my second question is, can staff, again, not for a solution tonight, but to take on notice, are staff able to look at the possibility of the design internally within the toilets, noting that they are non-gender specific toilets, to take on questions that we've had from the community previously with provision of non-gender specific toilets, and that is to ensure that they are designed within the cubicle in such a way that they are more attractive for both male and female to utilise the facilities, rather than being of a design that creates an issue when they are used as non-gender specific.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mayor King, to the first part of that question in relation to CCTV. Yes, we can look at additional CCTV to ensure that that's within sight. In relation to the second part of the question, whether you could clarify what you're actually asking there. I'm sure we can work with the contractor to look at any sort of specific additional design considerations within it.
If the acting general manager is happy, I'm happy to talk to the staff when I return to Albury in the next couple of days to clarify some of the questions that have been raised specifically by members of the public when we've been looking at non-gender specific toilets previously. So if the acting general manager is happy for me to do that, I'm happy to follow that up after the meeting.
Acting CEO, Ms Squire.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you, Councillor Glacken. Yes, happy to catch up when you return, and we'll provide you with some clarification.
Thank you very much. That's perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Callaghan speaking for.
Thank you, Mayor King. I was just putting my hand down. Thank you for the investigation for further CCTV to support the safety at the skate park. This is an essential investment into a recreational facility that is used by a wide range of people. And after winning 2 awards in 2022 at the Australian Institute of Landscape Architecture Awards for excellence for parks and open spaces, and also the New South Wales Regional Achievement Award for Southern New South Wales, this investment in infrastructure will be welcomed by the many families, young people and community groups that access the renowned skate park, further enhancing it as a valuable community asset. And the new toilet block couldn't be built soon enough. Thank you.
Question, Councillor Edward.
Thank you, Mayor King. Through you to the relevant member of staff, just looking to confirm that the facility will be designed and constructed in accordance with the previously endorsed Albury City public toilet strategy.
Mr. Miller.
Through you, Mayor King, and thank you for the question. Yes, it will be.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against or questions? Councillor Baker, did you wish to sum up or happy to put the motion? In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thanks, councillors. CM 13.9, Draft Albury City Waste Management Strategy 2023 Public Exhibition Submissions. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receives and notes the submissions received during the public exhibition of the Albury City Waste Management Strategy 2023, and B adopts the Albury City Waste Management Strategy 2023, including proposed amendments as outlined in attachment 3.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to open debate?
Briefly again, a really comprehensive waste management strategy. It was one of the ones that caught my eye when I added up all the pages we were getting. The technical report on this one was 250 pages, and it was an incredibly detailed document. And you know, we really have set out a brilliant waste management strategy to go forward with. And I think the submissions back from the public show that they were happy, very happy with what we were doing and proposing. So I'm really pleased that this is going ahead.
Thank you. Speaker 4, Councillor Edward.
Thank you, Mayor King. Pleased to see this strategy has been reworded to ensure that careful consideration is given to any new waste management technologies, including burning waste for energy, which in my view is a waste of a potential resource and a hindrance to achieving the goal of a circular economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item CM 13.10, Bungamberwatha Creek Line Assessment and Naturalisation Feasibility Report. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receives and endorses the draft Bungamberwatha Creek Line Assessment Report and associated action plan. B endorses the documents to be placed on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days. And C, if no submissions are received through the public exhibition, adopts the draft Bungamberwatha Creek Line Assessment Report and associated action plan as the final version.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
I second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Edwards, do you wish to open debate?
Yes, please. I'm really excited to see that the recommendations of this very thorough investigation and report include opportunities for naturalisation where appropriate, including within the Union Road retarding basin, where there's ample capacity to increase the channel cross-section, lower grade and reduce velocities to support a channel stabilised with the use of rock and vegetation. The action plan for the future management of the Bungamberwatha Creek includes really considered key outcomes for various sections of the catchment, including enhanced ecology and channel form, improved activation and connectivity, improved vegetation management, community and cultural connection, and improved amenity, including shared paths and the provision of shade trees, and exploration of water-sensitive urban design for improved water quality. I note that the next steps in this journey are to develop a high-resolution, three-dimensional hydrodynamic model to test the impact of naturalisation on flooding and to investigate ways to provide channel stabilisation and to undertake pilot projects for naturalisation to test potential viable forms in low-risk locations. So I look forward to seeing the development of the works program for the implementation of this action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Speaker 4, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mayor King. I was also impressed by the report because it's quite a difficult thing from the start of Bungamberwatha Creek to the river, and it can't all be made natural, and it's still got to carry a great chunk of water. So I think it's a really good report, and I look forward to hearing from the public what they've got to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Glacken, Speaker 4.
Yes, thank you. I too, like the previous councillors who have already spoken, thought this is a very good report and extremely inclusive of the wishes and desires of many people who have expressed interest in this creek in particular, the Bungam Creek as we call it locally. It highlighted the reality that whilst there are many people in the community who do wish us to return the creek in its entirety to a more natural state, the reality is that there are many sections that have a very high flow and reach more than capacity at times. And so it highlighted that it was not possible for all areas of the Bungamberwatha Creek, unfortunately, to re-return to their natural state. But it was, in effect, a report that showed that there could be compromise for various sections of the creek and highlighted those. And I think that was a really positive outcome of the report. And I'm really pleased that we can present what is an inclusive report that offers opportunity for both ends of the spectrum, because there were many people who were concerned about the risk of returning the creek to its natural state and making it more natural environment, but the outcome would be flooding, which is why the creek had been treated as it was over 100 or so years. So I do support this report and look forward to receiving feedback from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glacken. No other Speakers for or against? Councillor Edwards, do you wish to sum up or happy to put the motion in that case? Councillors, those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.11 Draft Compliance Priorities Program. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council adopts the draft annual Albury City Compliance Priorities Program from the 1st of July 2023 to 30th of June 2024.
Councillor Thurley.
Second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Betteridge, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, any speakers for or against? In that case, happy to put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you. CM 13.12 Local Government Remuneration Tribunal 2023 Annual Report and Determination. Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move that Council A receives and notes the report on councillor and mayoral fees for 2023-24. B fixes the annual fee payable to each councillor at $26,070 for the 2023-24 financial year pursuant to Section 248 of the Local Government Act 1993, New South Wales, and in accordance with the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal's 2023 Annual Report and Determination. And C fixes the annual fee payable to the Mayor in addition to the fee payable under Section 248 at $64,390 for the 2023-24 financial year, pursuant to Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1993, New South Wales, and in accordance with the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal's 2022 Annual Report and Determination.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Betteridge.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor King.
Any councillors? Councillor Bowen, were you speaking? Just an accidental touch of the button there. In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 14, Officers' Reports for Noting. CM 14.1, Investment Balances, May 2023. Councillor Betteridge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor King, I'd like to move that council receives and notes the investment balances report for the month of May 2023.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second that motion.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No,
Councillor
thank you, Mayor
Betteridge?
King.
Councillors, Councillor Glacken, are you wishing to speak to the motion? Oh, no, I just saw a glimpse of your card. Sorry about that. In that case, we'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. CM 14.2, Youth Council Summary Report, January to May 2023. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council receives and notes the Youth Council's achievements as outlined in the Albury Youth Council update, January to May 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Callaghan.
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor King. Just briefly, I'd like to just state that it was a great honour to interview each of the youth councillors for their positions going forward, along with Councillor Callaghan. And it was great to see the enthusiasm and the great range of styles and ages and different people going for that. So I'm very proud to see the Youth Council and what they're achieving so far. They've gone ahead already with a number of different projects. So looking forward to seeing more from the future for them as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Speaker Councillor Callaghan, and then we'll go to a question.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to speak for the motion and echo Councillor Deputy Mayor Steve Bowen's sentiments. It was such a privilege to be a part of it and to welcome the new councillors into Chambers. I congratulate Sid John on helping to increase the Youth Council budget through his Have You Say the process. And as a young councillor group, they have been busy participating in professional development around disability inclusion training. They were active at the Riverside Vibes. They assisted with the Winter Solstice event and participated in further leadership training. and are a voice in a variety of committees, sharing their ideas and perspectives of their demographics. And I want to thank them for their commitment to the betterment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Callaghan. A question, Councillor Glacken.
Yes, thank you. Through you to the most relevant member of staff, noting the significant number of activities that the Youth Council has already been involved in, I wonder if staff might be able to discuss the possibility with the Youth Council of undertaking a closer relationship with graffiti work and anti-graffiti work, I should say, in our community, noting the number of opportunities that the Youth Council already take to be active and proactive within our community. I'm not sure they would be able to include this in their list of activities, but could they review the possibility of the Youth Council taking a stronger leadership with graffiti or anti-graffiti within our community?
Ms. Code.
Thank you for the question and through you, Mayor King. The Youth Council is certainly heavily involved in graffiti management, and they participate in the annual graffiti cleanup day. And your suggestion is something that we will take back to the Youth Council themselves, and they can see what other activities that they might want to be involved in.
Thank you, Ms. Code. Any follow-up, Councillor Glacken? No, that's fine. Any other speakers in relation to this report? Councillor Bowen, did you wish to sum up or happy to put the motion?
Thank you, Mayor King. Happy to put the motion.
Put the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. We'll put the motion. Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. CM 14.3, 2022-23 Development Statistics March quarter. Councillor Thurley.
Mayor King, I move that council receives and notes the information in the March 2023 Quarterly Development Statistics Report.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second the motion, Mayor King.
Councillor Thurley, did you wish to speak to the motion at all?
It just looks like it's been a pretty busy time.
Councillor Bettridge, speaker for. Or an accidental touch. Sorry, that's okay. That's the equipment playing tricks on me. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Thurley, happy to put the motion. Councillors, those for? Those against? The motion is carried. CM 14.4, Albury-Wodonga Visitor Economy Trends 2022. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council receives and notes the 2022 Albury-Wodonga Visitor Economy Trends Report.
Thank you. Councillor Bettridge.
Happy to second the motion, Mayor King.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, just like to say what a fantastic result from a tourism point of view to inject over $1 billion into our economy, 1.15 billion to be exact, within that 22-year period. And also an increase of 96% on the previous year, which you would hope as well, being a fairly heavily COVID period. But to note that we are back above pre-COVID levels from a visitor point of view is an excellent result compared to what's happening around the rest of the country. So a great result, and looking forward to that going even further.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Any other speakers for or against? Happy to put the motion, given we're noting the report. Those for, those against, and that motion is carried. CM 15, Delegates Reports for Noting. CM 15.1, ALGWA National Conference, 17th to the 20th of May, 2023, of Councillors King and Callaghan. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mayor King. I'd like to move that council receives and notes the delegates report on the ALGWA National Conference held on the 17th to the 20th of May, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Do we have a councillor happy to second that motion? Councillor Thurley.
Yes, Mayor King, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen, did you wish to speak to your observations of the report?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just very quickly, thank you for writing the report as well for yourself and for Mayor King and Councillor Callaghan. There was obviously lots of different guest speakers, and the report was pretty extensive, actually a number of pages long, which I didn't expect. So well done, and great to see some things coming back to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. I'll just briefly speak to the report. That was just really refreshing to see that some of the things mentioned at the conference, Albury City are actually quite actively involved in. So I think Councillor Callaghan and I, it was great to see what we're already doing well, but also looking at opportunities on other things. And in particular, the Women in Sports panel talking about involving more girls and women in sport and ensuring that gender balance. And I think we are seeing a lot of that in our strategies as well. And also, you know, changing our thinking in terms of delivering on the democratic needs of the culturally and linguistically diverse community. And I guess having our multicultural plan launched a few weeks ago is a reminder of the important work in that space. So that was a part of the presentation. That were a couple of items that really stood out for me. So Councillor Bowen, are you happy to put the motion?
Absolutely.
Those for, those against, the motion is carried. Thank you. CM 16, notice of urgent business. There is none. Thank you. Item CM 17 relates to confidential matters. Would a councillor like to move and second that we go into confidential? Councillor Thurley.
Thank you, Mayor King. I move
Just pausing while we get the right.
that council
reading in.
move into confidential to discuss item CM 17.1 as this confidential item exclusive of press or public in the grounds the matters relate to confidential item exclusive press or public in the grounds that 2, the matters and information are the following. C, information that would have disclosed confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business, and D, commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. Local Government Act 1993, number 30, section 10A2, C and D1.
Thank you, Councillor Thurley. Councillor Bowen.
I'd like to second that motion. Thanks, Mayor King.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Are there any statements or submissions from the public regarding the reasons as identified for this confidential item CM 17.1? There are none. Councillors, do we wish to proceed with the motion to move into confidential? Those for? Those against? That motion is carried. The motion to move into confidential has now been carried. For our live stream viewers, we will now say goodbye. You can find the outcome of this confidential session in the meeting minutes, which are published on the Albury City website within 2 business days.